Hello, and today we will continue with the new update of Cleaved. This is build number 2, and we're going to continue with the path or route in which we surrender my gear scouts ahead kind of guides me on a personal level, telling me little details here and there about certain streets and businesses. When I was younger, I wasn't really allowed to venture to the city that much unless I had a lot of personal guards dedicated to watching over me. But there were a few times I was quick enough to sneak out before anyone was able to realize I'd left. Me, Garrett, and Skjoll used to raise hell in the streets. Oh yeah? So what would 3 rebellious wolves get up to? For instance, see this bakery. Well, I remember that. I doubt he would have put it in his report, but he took me here for something to eat after we visited Vern. I get a chance to see just how well enjoyed the bakery is. There's already a line out the door and partially flowing down the street is surprising for how early it is. Our mothers were very strict on how much sugary treats we could have as pups, so if we snuck out, we would always visit the bakery. A really sweet old lady called Amma used to work here. She spoiled us rotten by giving us free cakes and had us try new recipes she was working on. Even Gear cannot hide his excitement as I see his tail wag when I look forward. There was one time when we had just finished studying for the day. We were due to only have a short break before we had to come home for a feast my father was hosting. Now it was the first time Skjoll and his family were to join us for one of these meals. His mother had gone over the top, making sure he was all clean and well groomed. So when we came down to our regular spot, we saw that Amma had made a first batch of cream cakes to try. We explained we had to eat while we walked because we didn't have much time, and being the sweet lady that she was, she let us take them. He can't help but snicker between his words, and the memory comes back to him. We don't even get 3 steps away from the bakery before the big oaf manages to somehow trip over his own 2 feet. I can't help but laugh, picturing such a large wolf falling over so quickly. Oh my, did we get scolding? He came back to the feast with Skjoll, his chest all matted and stuck together with sugary cream pressed into it. There was simply no time to get him washed up. Good times. And suddenly, sounds like it. Say, what happened to this Amma person? She's still around, actually. Her daughter took over the shop a few years ago when she got a bit too old to manage it by herself. I should really go see her sometime soon. I haven't had that much time since being made king and all. And not as we round the corner and find ourselves in the same square I had been in that other night. Despite supposedly being one of the quieter markets, it was still producing a lot of foot traffic. I continue to follow to and make in the new surroundings. We're heading directly to one of the lanterns that I had first seen while riding in the district. As I try to give it an inspection, Calder goes to say something to Gare. I try to eavesdrop, but a loud bumping sound pulls my attention away. Following it, I see an older man leaving a particular area of the market. He's doing his best to run after a barrel that's rolling across the courtyard. Look at his posture. It's evident that the older man must have some kind of back issue that's preventing him from catching up with the barrel. Acting quickly, I take off, running quickly over to the barrel. I get ahead of it so that I'm able to stop and allow the old man to catch up. Are you okay there, sir? Finally able to catch his breath, the old man stretches his back to look up at me. I have to take a step back as I'm nearly caught by his arms. Thank you so much, young man. I'm afraid this bug ain't so young anymore. It's quite alright. Can I give you a hand to carry this back to where it belongs? He takes a second to look at me. As his eyes adjust, he jumps ever so slightly as he sees who I am. Oh my, you're that mysterious fellow who was put in front of the council. I can tell he's a bit intimidated. My reputation precedes me, I see. I am, and I do apologize if I've given you a fright there. It's alright. I just wasn't expecting to see you of all people. I pick up the barrel and carefully raise it up. It's heavy, but I can manage it well enough to follow through. Well, the council did reach a decision that allows me to have some freedoms, but it was in exchange that I would do what I could to help this kingdom. This is just as good a start as any for me. It surprises me to see him taken aback as he is, but he leads me back over to his stall. I sit down the barrel and obey and watch him attach a set of straps to the row of barrels. That shouldn't be going anywhere now. Thank you again, young man. It isn't a problem, sir. You take care now. As I turn around and begin to leave the area, I can feel the amount of eyes on my back. It feels different than how it did on my first day inside these walls, though. It doesn't feel like a harsh pressure like it did then. Now it just feels like people with genuine curiosity are trying to look into me and my decisions. And what might you be doing, human? I turn around to see who raised the question about my actions, only to be met by a familiar voice. Skjoll. A little bit overwhelmed with emotion, I'm unable to restrain myself from launching at the guy. I'm doing my best to give the pudgy wolf a hug. Boy, calm it down now, you weirdo. You forgot I have a appearance to hold up. Despite him trying to be serious, he lets out a chuckle. As I let go and step back, I apologize to him. I'm sorry, man. The past few days have been a real head case for me. You've been a really big help smoothing things over and making sure I've been treated fairly. I'm pretty happy to see you. Well, I'm happy to see you too. What are you doing over here by yourself? Shouldn't you have an escort with you? And not while I was with the king and that gear guy, but I ended up walking off to help an old man walking into the stall behind me. Seriously, what did you help him with? Some one-way barrel that he couldn't catch up to. I only ran over to make sure it didn't roll too far away from home, and then I brought it back. I see. Is that a problem? You don't seem too enthused. No, it's not that. I've been keeping my ear to the ground to see what the general opinion is about you. A lot of the opinions have been mixed so far, but nothing too serious. But after doing your good deed the other day, I'm just wondering how they're going to change. That and I wasn't sure if I believed you at first, seeing how twig-like those arms of yours are. Hey, I gave the wolf a slight jab in the arm, but I stopped to realize. When I realized what he's telling me, damn, people are talking about me that quickly. Ryan, you're the talk of the whole kingdom, mate. Of course, people are gonna be gossiping. As we continue to talk, we hear of a rush of footsteps behind us. Ryan, why the hell you run off? Gears stands there with a neutral stance and silent expression, though I can feel anger in his eyes through the helmet. He may have run off, but he's already improving your image with the civilians, King Calder. The wolf didn't even take a second to look at who was next to me, but as the awareness kicked in, he soon relaxed. Skjoll, it's good to see you. It's good to see you too, brother. Gosh, I can't remember the last time all three of us were in the same place. It has been a long time. Too long, in fact. We'll need to remedy that soon. Agreed. Now, do tell me, how's our guest improving relations? Well, while you were entertaining Gear in a one-sided conversation, our human here helped some old geezer who was struggling to catch a runaway barrel. With those arms? I let out a gasp of disbelief, and Skjoll can't help but burst out in laughter. I'm left annoyed at the fact all three of them thought the same thing. How dare, at least I haven't had my chest plastered in queen cake. He stopped laughing, and now it's Kaiser's turn to laugh. Gia was trying to not do the same. You told him it was just one time. We take a minute to catch our breaths and we begin walking again. So, what are you guys up to? We're on our way to Heim's favorite tailor shop. Oh really? How did that end up happening? Please, you know how eccentric Heim is. Don't get me wrong, I'm in full agreement that Brian here is indeed in need of some new clothes, but getting something casual would go against his uptight and boastful attitude. Seriously, forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but he certainly didn't appear that way in the trial hall. And if we're talking about eccentric, don't even get me started on George, was it? Skjoll lets out a laugh. You're certainly getting better at saying our names, Brian, and you certainly wouldn't be wrong about George in any social space. But Han's a different beast entirely. He has this belief system that, since he's been through a lot of adversity, it doesn't matter how his outward appearance is, that's what he thinks anyways. But that same can't be said for his associates, because they still in the early years of their careers. Heim sees them as reflections of himself, and thus he feels as if they need to do everything they can to meet his expectations. Don't get us wrong, Brian. We respect him immensely, but he just has a way of going about certain things that we don't always agree with. At least this time, he's covering the expenses out of his own pocket. Well, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous now. You'll do fine, mate. Put it this way, if things don't go exactly perfectly with him, I'm more than happy to see if Cr can take you in under his wing. Well, I appreciate it. It just now dawned on me that we didn't even ask what Skjoll was doing out here. Say, what are you up to now, Skjoll? Any plans for the day? I'm lucky it's been a bit of a quieter day today. I've had a lot of well-needed time to go over some reports and investigations of some recent events. So I'll more than likely be getting back to those after I leave you lot to go after your business. It's not long after he says that when we finally make it to the tailor. I'm pleasantly surprised by the size of the shop, and I'm very interested in what types of clothing I may find once I step inside. Well, I appreciate your company as always, brother. I'll send word once we're finished for the day. See it we can fit a drink in. You here. As I watch him walk away, Calder gives the shop's door a knock. A few seconds go by and I hear the sound of a latch turning for the doors to open. I'm all the more surprised to see a rather short wolf answer the door. King Calder, darling, how are you? It's good to see you too, Sama. How's the kingdom's best tailor doing this fine day? Oh, you're just saying that. Of course I am. I'm literally the one who just said it. Gosh, this boy, always with such a sense of humor. Now, come, I've already cleared the shop for you. Gia proceeds to go first, standing next to the doorway, and places his spear into the ground with the tip raised up to the sky. He'll be standing guard, and after you. I thank him as I step through the doorway and immediately take in the amount of fabrics and clothing that decorate the many walls of that shop. Oh, wow! Now I know Heim told me I'd be working on a special client today, but I had no idea this is what you would look like. It startles me how quiet she is as she effortlessly sneaks past and circles around me. She then begins asking a bunch of questions. So, where are you, honey? I have never seen anyone like you. Are you big for your species? Compared to the king here, you certainly don't look it, but who am I to judge? You're also quite on the skinny side, aren't you, darling? Not that I'm complaining, as it's gonna make my job a lot easier adjusting to the fits. Carter, what do you have him on food-wise? I look at the wolf in a mini panic as I was not expecting this many questions. Summer, this is Brian, and he's a human. I'll leave him to answer some of the questions, but I will say that we're supplying him with the same food that we all eat from the cooks in the castle. Hello there, and yes, everything Calder said is correct. Not say I'm average, if not a little above average. Last I checked, I was 6 foot. I don't really know what that means, honey, but I'll take your word for it. As for you being on the skinny side, don't worry about that for long. Those cooks know how to make a very hearty meal. She gives me a smile as she proceeds to walk over to a more open section of the shop, giving me instructions to follow her. Now, those clothes you got on are clearly too baggy for you, so if you wouldn't mind placing those to the side for me, I'd like to get some accurate measurements. I blush a slight bit, but do as she requests, setting my coat, shirt, and trousers off to the side. It takes me a second to untie my shoes, but they are quickly kicked off as well. Sensing my shyness, she does an amazing job of getting the measurements done as quickly as possible. Okay, so, as it turns out, she already has a pair of trousers in my size. She goes to fetch them quickly so I can cover up my half-naked body. She then takes out some pen and paper and makes a record of sizes. Now I'll have some time on my hands to create some more clothing for you very soon, so take this part in the meantime. I have other garments delivered to the castle for you. She takes me over to a section of tops. Now, most who come through my doors have enough fur on them that they never have to have some form of top to keep warm. You, however, almost definitely need one. She said that last bit as she looks me up and down. As she travels through the racking with her fingers, she pulls one out that she seems to be a particular fan of. Oh, this. The book goes on to tell me that this specific shirt is a dual-layered tunic. It comes with a white linen shirt underneath to give it extra warmth and some depth, with the outer layer, while the outer layer is a forest green color with gray accents accompanying it. She convinces me to try it on. Although the long sleeves rolled past my hands, I'm very satisfied with how it looks in the soft mirror. Now, darling, I'll obviously adjust the sleeves for you, but give them a grab and pull them up like this. Sama grabs one sleeve and pulls high enough that the wrist cuff is just resting on my elbow. I do the same to the other and give myself another look in the mirror. Now, this is where my dual layering goes into effect. Depending on the time, a year, and the climate, you'll be able to roll these sleeves however you want it, so you'll be comfy no matter the weather. Sama, this is amazing. Oh, I'm not done yet, honey. I'll begin work on the adjustments to that tunic very shortly, aside from getting it to fit you right. I'll need to add the royal seal to it so that you know and the people know that you are currently allied to the royal council. Carter, have you given the boy a cloak? No, I have. Then a cloak you shall have. Carter, take the boy into the parlor. I just finished brewing tea. As quick as ever, she sits upstairs, taking the garments with her. I look back at Calder, and he raised his paw for me to follow him. I quickly take a seat in the parlor area that Sama had mentioned. He then grabs 2 cups from the side and pours to both of us some tea. I probably should have warned you about Sama before we arrived. Don't get me wrong, I would have appreciated it, but she's lovely. We both chuckle and take a sip of our drinks. It's pleasant and not at all overpowering. I kinda want to see if we can pick up the blend from somewhere. We're probably gonna be here a little while. Yeah, I think so too. Something tells me that seamstress of yours has a habit of getting carried away with big projects, eh? Oh, you wouldn't believe it. Sama loves her fashion. Haim actually financed her entire venture into setting up her own store before he was even part of the council. She made his money back in more sense, especially after introducing her as a newly appointed personal tailor to the royal family. Oh wow, so does that mean she made a huge majority of our outfits? Yes, you'd indeed be correct. Damn, she must have done a real good job. I have to know, how long did she spend on Zord's outfit? Not to knock the rest of you, but he was certainly the most outstanding one of the lot of you. Just the one? It took over a week just to prepare the damn thing. Oh God. He goes over the ridiculous preparations that she had to take in order to make sure George's outfit was made to perfection. We can't help but laugh. You know, I really like that color you two picked for the tunic. Oh yeah? Is there any particular reason why? Someone makes all of her dyes by hand, and she sources the ingredients to make them from other local businesses across Alzheimer. She actually happens to get a particularly nice dye from my favorite flower. You have a favorite, really? Now, I know my dazzling good looks and rugged appearance might make you think otherwise, but I can be quite suave when I need to be. You'll have to show me more of that side sometime. I'm curious what the smooth talking king sounds like. Oh, hush you. But back to what I was saying. You see the blue color my garments have? Someone gets it from her fabrics from the humble bluebell. Oh, that sounds pretty. Is there any particular reason why you would like that one so much? Coincidentally, it was my mother's favorite. She had such good taste in butter nickels. Do you have any family in the picture? Not in regard to my parents, no. My mother died of an illness when I was younger. As you've probably been able to surmise, my father recently passed away. That's why I have taken the throne. When my father was busy with his diplomatic meetings and various other events, I could always rely on my uncle to be there for me. I guess you could say he's always been like a second father to me. The two of you seemed very close for the few interactions I've seen so far, but now that you say that, though, I'm curious about one more thing. Oh yeah, what would that be? Skjoll and Gear. What's the connection between you guys? I noticed that you keep calling each other brother. Yeah, no, they're not my actual brothers. Those two are a little older than me, but their families have been strong figures in the woven community since before they were born. From a young age, they have both experienced interest in doing some form of work for the royal family, be that serving on the council and the military so long as there was a place for them. They've more than earned their place since, but my uncle thought it would be a wise idea for them to oversee my personal training. I was kept separate from a lot of the training activities when I was younger. That's not to say I didn't get certain things like education or anything, but when it came to stuff like combat, certain members of the then council intervened in my participation. They worried that it wouldn't look good if the future heir to the throne was injured before he was ready. But Sayara, not wanting me to fall behind, set up a training group just for me. For those two would go off and learn from the professionals, then come back and teach me the things they learned. It's thanks to those two that I know how to fight, use weapons, gear, even taught me how to hunt. It wasn't always easy though. They used to be much bigger than me back in the day, so it made the ass kickings I would get in training even more brutal. But it was worth it in the end. When the council agreed that I was finally ready, I felt I had already cemented myself in the pack. Your uncle seems like a really smart guy, Calder. I'm happy to hear you have someone like that looking out for you, even if he did literally throw you to the wolves. So I'm guessing hanging out with those two so often must have been really brought you all together. Yeah, we've been inseparable since. Again, while they're not technically my brothers, we're so close that I might as well consider them family. It's at this moment that I finish my tea and set my cup to the side. Kyla does the same very shortly after me. How about you? Any family back home? No, not really. I never actually met my parents. I ended up bouncing around around a lot as a kid, going from place to place before I was finally able to settle down in some quaint university town in the countryside. I'm sorry to hear that, Brian. I can't imagine that being easy for a child. Oh, don't worry about it too much about it. I was a resilient kid after all. Well, that much is clear. How about you tell me what this university town is? I'll go on to tell Calder what I remember about my life in that town. The two of us share a silent agreement not to pry into the details my mind is hazy on. Instead, we enjoy our ability to talk in private about the nicer things in our lives. Oh, so the town itself is used to support the scholars who are living there for a time? Exactly, and we bring the interest with us, which is beneficial to business owners there too. It's not the same for everyone, but I'm someone who tries to support local businesses wherever possible. The coastal town's local trade spots will receive plenty of me in exchange for coffee, clothes, whatever I really need. I see. Were your people happy with this exchange? You're always going to get a handful of people that will complain about exchanges like this, but a lot of the time that's only a very small minority. The people I interacted with on a frequent basis were more than happy to have me and my colleagues living there. Huh. Something the matter? You just got me thinking is all. Even though I'm king, it just feels like there isn't a lot that I can do right now because of how bad the political climate can be with other nations. I've been toying with multiple different ideas on how we can go about brokering some kind of peace agreement between our people. Are you thinking about opening up one of the universities? Like, if things go well, would it be possible that someone not from these lands could come here as a scholar? I'm certainly not opposed to it. I'm thinking it could be a way of easing the idea of opening our borders to different kingdoms for them to come and experience a wolven society. But at the back of my mind, I feel as if potential drawbacks of this idea could outweigh the positive. See, I'd like to help where possible, but I haven't really been told why these tensions are so high. I know there are some nations that are concerned over you taking the throne, but that surely can't be the only reason you guys are nearly going to war, right? He goes to say something, but he stops himself, and his mouth is hanging agape for a slight moment. He must be seriously contemplating on whether or not he's in a position to share such a detail with me. Before I'm given a chance to hear it, though, a loud sound echoes from the floor above. It's finished! Someone comes down the stairs as fast as her legs will allow her to, anyway. She has my clothes draped over her arm and she rushes them over to drop them into my waiting hands. Please go try these on immediately. I want to make sure I've got the right adjustments. I'm shoved over to the fitting room once again, and I stripped back down to my undergarments and put the new outfit on. The trousers are the perfect length, and the tunic, while a little baggy, was just how I liked it. I step out and walk in front of a mirror to see the full effects of myself. To both Sama and Calder's interest, I say the outfit as a whole looks really good. I must say, I simply outdid myself here. I can certainly attest to that. You wear those clothes well, Brian. Thank you, this already feels a lot better. I'm unable to remove the smile from my face as I walk over to the front door to grab my shoes. As I walk back over to the two, Sama grabs a stool and climbs it to get to about the same height that I am. I raise my arms per her instructions and put them out to the sides. She then puts on the finishing touches. Calder comes over comes over with a large black cloak and carefully drapes it around my shoulders. And Summer connects the metallic latch around my neck to hold it in place. The front on the back of the cloak already begins to work its magic by warming me up for the South's cool climate. Yet just as I think she's done, she grabs a leather fixture and straps it over my shoulder to wrap around my body. Now with this leather brace, not only are you going to have a bit of extra protection on you, there's multiple pockets on it for you to store your valuables. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Lady Sama. Oh please, darling, I'm not fancy enough for a title like that. You just enjoy my work, and if you need more, you know who to come to. Now, shall we discuss payment? I give her a nod and return to the parlor, grabbing the pouch that I set down previously. We decide that I'll need more than one set of clothing, so she begins a new order to prepare more over the next few days. It's during this time that she also gets a look at my particular choice of undergarments and socks. She must be curious about their design and what they use for, so I explain to her the functions of each piece. I see, we don't want those dainty paws of yours to be damaged now, do we? I'm confident I'll be able to get those organized for you, Brian. For now, enjoy the clothing you have, and I will have one of my boys deliver these to you at the castle when they're done. After she finishes taking my final measurements, we encounter and make our way to the door. We thank her once again and we step out to see the ever-patient gear. Thank you for standing guard, old friend. Our business here for the day is done. I'd like to return to the castle as soon as possible so that you can be debriefed and so I can give you that long overdue recovery. Gia simply nods at the order and begins to march back through the market square. Thanks for joining us today, Calder. I know you didn't have to, but I do appreciate the extra company to get all of this sorted. It isn't a problem, Brian. I actually really enjoy our chat. Me too. I take a step closer to Gear, look up at him and give him a soft whisper. I know you're only here because you've been ordered to, but thank you for keeping watch, Gear. He looks down at me and gives me a reassuring nod. It's hard to tell what he's really feeling with that mask obscuring his eyes though. However, before we get a chance to enjoy this moment, the two wolves seem distracted by something. Looking towards the town, I see people in the market square shifting about quite rapidly. How come everyone's running? If it's what I think it is, it's not going to be good. Yeah, go on ahead. I gotta take Brian some place. The wolf was cut off by the sound of a trumpet clearing off in the distance. Damn it. Cutter, what's happening? We use that specific sound for when a riot is about to break out. Brian, listen closely. He turns his head back to Gear and gives him a nod to which I watch the masked wolf run away. Go back to Summers and stay in her cell. It'll be safe. I'll come back to get you as soon as we have this fight under control. You got that? Don't worry about me. You just go and get the situation under control. He gives me a nod before he turns on his heels and chases after his companion. Now left on my own, I turn to do as the wolf says and quickly make my way back to the south, though it would appear that my luck is unfortunately taking a turn for the worse. Despite doing my best to get back to the south, the front entrance is being swarmed by a crowd of civilians. It seems like they were either trying to leave the district all at once or demanding more information from the guards as to what's going on. Either way, I'm stuck in the middle of it, and the claustrophobia starts setting in. Out of nowhere, something tugs the back of my cloak just hard enough to shift my balance, and I tumble into an alleyway behind me. I almost didn't recognize you then, stranger. Huh? Rather quickly, the stranger forces me against the wall, a paw covering my mouth. Come now, is there any way to treat someone who tried to save your life? As his face comes into view, I can see a familiar shade of orange decorate the green lining of my captor's cloak. Now, if I move my paw away, are you going to do something stupid? I stick my hand and the stranger promptly removes his paw from my face. So, you must be the ever-dancing and handsome rogue. Phrase of the bandit. Why, yes, I would be. There's an aura of smugness emanating off of him. I'm left to ponder why he's here. You know, I was actually hoping I would get to see you again. You've been the talk of the town. Everywhere I go, there's some form of new gossip or stories being shared about you or what you might be up to. Oh yeah? Well, at the end of the day, talk is just talk. Talk is just talk, alright? So, we right. You know. You know, I was actually hoping I would get to see you again. You've been the talk of the town. Everywhere I go, there's some form of new gossip or stories being shared about you and what you might be up to. Oh yeah? Well, at the end of the day, talk is just talk. Too right, which is why I wanted to see you for myself. I'm more than happy to share, but I don't think you're going to get the answers you want. Gonna take a rough guess that you don't really want. They don't really know what a human is. Oh me, you'd be completely right. But if you're someone who helps a lot of people, you build yourself a lot of connections. And I think a good friend of mine might actually have some know-how of your kind. His last statement intrigues me. Up until now, it seemed like my luck was beginning to run dry. Even that this fox may know someone that can help me almost sounds a bit too good to be true. Is that right? Well, where can I find this friend of yours? You won't. That's how a chuckle and leans back against the wall to an adjacent building. It sits up outside the walls in the old town. Not only will you have no guide to get you there, I don't personally see you having many freedoms for traveling under Momaha. As much as I hate to admit it, the fox did make a good point. Listen, they're gonna be busy for a few hours trying to deal with that riot, so how about you humor me? I'll take you to his tavern, buy you a pint, and bring you back here once we're all finished. Sounds good? Well, I do contemplate refusing his offer if there's even a slight chance someone knows about humans that I have to try. Screw it. At the very least, I'll be somewhere safe from the riots. Quick thinking, wouldn't expect anything less from a scholar. I decided to play it cool, not wanting to seem desperate. That's a nice outfit you got there, pal. That for anything important? Yeah, it's part of the conditions for me to go free. I have to do some work for the council. Let me guess, how's your new boss, isn't he? He's the only one I can think of who would make you get a brand new outfit just to get all sweaty after a long day's work. Our entire walk mostly consisted of us passing through back streets and an occasional garden. Eventually we reached another alleyway blocked off by a brick wall. Wait, where are we going from here? He plunges his knife into a gap it lifts it, popping the grate from its hole and pushes it to the side. Oh, well, that's lovely. Is this how you get around and undetected as you do? And he strikes gold. But let me give you this a warning. If you even consider telling the guards about these underground passageways, I'll turn this knife to your neck. The previous sarcasm and smugness dissipates, making sure his message is sent across clearly. I assure him that I understand the gravity of his threat. However, just as quickly as his attitude changes, it changes back to the fox's more calm and collected demeanor. He informs me of the specific sewer path we're going to be taking. Supposedly, it's one of the only pathways that directly connects the outer layer of the walls of the sandy town just outside. Yes, he is. Get ready. See? Oh, the tavern. He looks over at me and smiles. As we get closer to the building, I can notably hear the sound of music getting louder and louder with each passing step. Fraser can't help pick up the pace. And once the fox rush with excitement and quickly tried to match his speed. As we make our way through the door, Fraser shoves it open with a hard push. "I'm home," he shouts sarcastically as we step inside the tavern. There's a few cheers and some hellos from some of the patrons as they see the fox strut in. Behind the counter, I can see a large horse who has just put on a warm smile upon seeing the fox. "Fraser, my boy." A loud voice cuts across the room, and within seconds I watch my friend get rushed by a goat. "Graham." It took him a moment to realize who had run up and grabbed him, but upon feeling the horns press on his body, he quickly returned the hug. "Oh, so this is... Oh, hello." The old goat takes a second glance upon hearing my voice, looking to speak to me. Good gods. He nearly falls over upon seeing me, as I don't think he was expecting it. "You're the fellow the guards arrested the other day." I am indeed. Apologies in advance if it causes any startle." He then lets the fox go and pulls him over to a portion of the bar where there are less patrons on either side. Fraser makes a hand gesture for me to follow them. I do so, ensuring I keep close. "Fraser, what's this fellow doing here?" "I invited him. The human here is actually in need of a bit of help, and I wanted to see if that was something I could provide." "Well, I say apologies if I appear unwelcoming human. I've heard through word of mouth you were working with the council. I didn't really know what to think." He's working in exchange for both his freedom and to potentially get some help with information gathering. Right, I'm with you now. A classic example of equivalent exchange. "But why here exactly? Graham, you and Gerhardt are some of the smartest and most well-traveled people I know. I figured it would make sense to start with you." The old goat lets out a chuckle. "I know, I just wanted to hear you say it. Now then, you two go get set up on the table. I'll bring you around and I'll go over what I know." Fraser laughs as I join in before we shuffle over to a nearby table. We take a seat and wait for our drinks. Someone looks excited. Yeah, it's kinda hard to hide it after hearing that news. I can't stop my leg from bouncing from excitement as I watch the goat talk to the horse behind the bar before slowly carrying over 2 steins. As he sets them down, Fraser wastes no time in knocking back his drink first. I follow his lead and take a swig of mine soon after. "Oh wow, that is good. I'm glad you're enjoying it, lad. That mead is a special creation of ours." He looks down and notices my legs still jittering. "I can tell that you're eager to find out what this old goat knows. I've never actually seen one of your kind in person, but the word itself does sound familiar on some strange level. I've traveled to many lands, and all with such rich history and folklore. I'm certain that I must have found something somewhere on it. I've documented almost everything I've learned in various books and journals." "That sounds promising. Do you know which books you used for it?" "I'm sorry, it was so long ago that I can't really recall the exact one. Try not to let my disappointment show, but I hold on to the little optimism I have left, provided the goal is successful." "I'll need to check my study first, see what I have on hand, Brian. They have you staying in the castle right now, do they not?" "Yeah, the king has me staying in one of the private rooms. It's got books upon books in there." "The room of the studies? Damn, he's putting you up. I see. I am familiar with those rooms, as I once spent my summers in them. That particular area of the castle is very close to the library. Some of the older council had actually kept my work for research purposes. I'd say it's more than likely you can still find it there. So if you don't have any luck finding the information here, you'd be the only one with the free reign to get into the library and find my books. Fraser, keep the human in your back pocket for now. If I have anything for him, I'll be relying on you to relay that information to him. I'll feel invigorated now that I have an excellent plan to return home with. And Washington Goat walks over to the bar. He takes a seat and starts chatting with the horse I'd seen before. Before me and Fraser have a moment, the door to the tavern opens and a hooded fellow walks in. You might want to get him back, Fraser. The riots about to be under control. Fraser nods at the mysterious stranger and waits for him to pass by before looking over to me. Damn, I thought we would have had more time. Come on, I better get you back for Calder tries to come and find you. Not wanting to waste time, I sat across the bar to the goat, thanking him for his hospitality and efforts to help me. I quickly stand with the fonts and we rush out the door. We lift our hoods once again to blend in. We return through the same tunnel, and after a bit of sneaking, we were able to make it into the alleyway where he initially found me. Not planning on sticking around long. Yeah, you probably should take off. Wouldn't wanna risk you getting caught. I'm sure you're smart enough to come up with something, but try not to dawdle on getting that library access. Yeah, I'll think of something. Take care of yourself, Brian. I'll check back in a few days. As Fraser bids me farewell and runs away, I leave the alleyway and walk down a little to Summer's Tailor. I look around and see that the coast is clear, so I take that moment to stand in the front of the shop waiting for the time to pass. It's not long before I hear a series of heavy footsteps approaching me. Ryan! I turn in the direction of the voice and see Caldo dash over with gear not too far behind him. There you are. I'm sorry if I gave you both a scare. Damn right, we came back here a little while ago and imagined our surprise when we questioned Saba and found out you never came back. Thinking on my feet, I come up with an explanation. I tell him the actual roadway to get back to the tailors was closed off by guards who were trying to ensure no more protesters could slip by and make it worse. There's an alleyway just a short walk away from here. It was walled off. I wasn't bothered the entire time I was there. And I figured it would be safer than wandering the streets. Besides, but I think my explanation was convincing enough. Okay, next time explain to the guards your situation and that you are acting on direct orders from myself. If they give you any trouble, just show them that crest that Sama stitching into your clothing. Keeping historic appearance gear lets out a slight cough to indicate he is still here. Carlo looks at him, and the two exchange a nod, reminding themselves what the next steps were. Ryan, I hope you've had a pleasant day, but after the things we've had to deal with, we're ready to call it and get some much-needed rest. We'll be returning to the castle now. Right behind you. Our second attempt at returning home went much better than our previous, with no interruptions or distractions. We arrive at the castle gate just as the sun is setting, awaiting the gates to rise up and allow us entry. As we step inside, Gare walks back to the depot and leaves his spear behind. He then escorts me and his fellow wolf back to my room. We all step inside and I remove my cloak, hanging it up on an adjacent wall hanger. The two wolves look beat, and I can only imagine they must have had some serious roughhousing while trying to stop the ongoing fights. Brian, I'm gonna suggest that you try your best at getting some sleep. Gear here will be by in the early morning to collect you and escort you to Heim's residence. He'll probably have quite a lot in store for you tomorrow once you had a chance to tour the facility. You got it. Honestly, I know I probably didn't get up to half as much as what you guys got entangled with, but I am absolutely shattered. I can't stop myself from letting out a yawn, and like clockwork, the others soon join me. Caldas then stretches and makes his way out of the door. Good night, Brian. I'm gonna take a trip to the baths before I go to bed. You fancy joining me, Gear? As he says that, he's already begun walking down toward the hallway. I think I'm gonna have to keep a much closer eye on you, human. You do best to remember that. He takes his helmet off so that he can look me straight in the eye. After getting a nervous gulp out of me, he gives me a smile. He then turns and begins to follow after the large wolf. Right behind you, Your Highness. With those two now officially gone, I close the door. I need to figure out how I can get access to that library. Calder mentioned those books to study. What if one just happens to go missing? One that I want to read. That should be reason enough to visit the library. After all, who's deprived a scholar of their right to knowledge? As I pace around the room, I trip over some furniture I failed to notice before and fall to the floor. Damn it. For a new angle, I take another look around my room. My eyes settle on the vast sets of cupboards that I could potentially hide the book within. No, that's just stupid, Brian. If someone checks this room and finds it, it'll only raise suspicion. As I look away, my head falls back and I focus on one of the windows overlooking the back end of the castle. I can't just toss it out of the window. Someone could find it easily and return it. I don't want to imagine what kind of questions they ask. Outside, as I slowly sit up, my pride still sore from the fall. However, it's quickly forgotten as my eyes settle to the mantel, a light bulb going off in my mind. Upon arriving in this room, I failed to notice the fireplace that decorated the living area and sat slightly above it with a piece of flint and a striker. I went upstairs to grab one of the books out of the private study. As I inspect the shelf, I see it holds many kinds of books, including one anthology. I slide out the third volume from the set and rush back downstairs to toss it into the fireplace. Once I do, I strike the cat and strike the flint until a spark goes off, quickly setting the dry wood alight. Yeah, this should be enough. Satisfied, I step away from the fire and sprawl out onto the settee behind me. As I find a comfortable position, it doesn't take long before I'm fast asleep. As the night passes, I'm awoken from my slumber by the sounds of knocking on my door. I get up and walk over to it and find that standing outside is an ever-loyal guard Gear. I open the door and allow him to step in. He walks right past me and sets a tray of food down on the counter. He takes a second to lift off his mask and I watch him chuck it over to a nearby table. Before you freak out, we have got time for you to get ready. I'm only here early just to make sure you're prepared, and that Calder's insistence brings us some breakfast. He makes his way over to the couch and takes a seat. I look over at the counter and see that today's breakfast consists of bread and some sliced cooked meats. With me being in the mood for a sandwich, I head over to it and begin to craft one. I take it over to the free chair and sit down to eat. He looks over and nods approvingly at the style in which I have chosen to eat my breakfast, and we sit in a comfortable silence until I've finished. Sorry if I'm causing you any unnecessary running around. I can't imagine it's the most entertaining thing in the world to do. It certainly isn't the worst fate imaginable. At least by watching you, I actually have a chance to stay home for once. Oh yeah? I'd heard you were away on a mission. I take it that's something that happens very frequently. Every other week, with how everything has gone tits up. What are these missions like? Just because I'm early doesn't mean we have all the time in the world. You might want to consider taking a shower before we rush off to Himes. I sense it's something he doesn't want to discuss with me, so I agree to his advice and quickly head upstairs to get clean. Before I knew it, I was redressed and out the door with the soldier heading down towards the castle gate. We ended up walking in silence. I can tell that yesterday was only as expressive as he was due to Calder's presence. The walk itself was a perfect example for me to see the truly stoic side of gear, where I learned firsthand that the mask being down means complete focus. As we finally make our way through the busy city gates and city streets, with the occasional citizens gawking at my appearance, I'm taken to a much quieter strip of the road. We strolled past most of the houses before finally setting our sights on a long building at the back of the strip. As we finally get down there, Garrett escorts me to the door and gives it a modest knock. Not long after, Haim opens the door for us. "You're on time. Good job, Garrett. Thank you for ensuring that." He simply nods and stands at the side to allow me to walk inside. "I'll signal you on when to return to pick up the human dismissed." As the door closes, Haim soon approaches me. "How about we start with the tour?" "Sounds like a perfect idea to me. When do we start? Because if I have any say, I would love to have a look at how you manage to produce an energy source that powers the lighting. How about I start with something a little more bold?" He instructs me to stand with him on a viewing platform. Looking out from it, I see a divot in the flooring. In it sits a wooden marvel of a boat. Its unique painting and metallic embezzlements did much to catch my eye. "Fold." We're testing the sip again. As he says this, the boat behind him begins to shake slightly. After everything I've seen, I find it surprising that this would be more interesting than a medieval society with an energy source. My thoughts, however, are immediately blown to the back of my mind. What I presumed were to be seals on the other side of the boat tilts and the outer circle begins to glow blue, and slowly but surely lifts into the air. With my eyes furiously, baffled by what I'm seeing. Before I have a chance to question it, Haim steps over rather smugly. Be continued. And so that was the latest update of Cleaved. Later on, I'll make a video in which we go through the prison scene with Calder and the trial, but this time after we decide to run. Now in the last video, we saw Calder enter the jail cell right after we decided to surrender to Skjoll. And it was more cordial, he was more friendly, and he tried to defend the MC, Brian, in the trial. So I looked at the same scene in the trial, the prison and the trial scenes after the MC was caught and Fraser lost him, and the dialogue is much different than the dialogue in the same scenes after we surrendered. So in another video, I'll make a also what happens in the prison scene and during the trial after we get caught and Fraser ends up losing us to the guards. So this medieval society is not quite as primitive as what Brian thought, or what I thought personally. People in their homes have a screen where they can get news and get caught up on the culture of the kingdom. So basically these people here have television. So it's not quite as primitive as what I thought. And at the end there, where Heim shows Brian the sip, the blue light lifts off from the sip, and Heim seems to be quite proud of himself of that. And I don't exactly know what that means, but I think in the next update we'll see more about it and see more about what it's actually doing and how that could benefit the kingdom as a whole, and whether Brian's input can make it even better. So we got to see Fraser again. There was a certain scene, and once I skipped the sewer scene because I already played that scene in the first build, so earlier this year, so I decided to skip that scene where they go through the tunnel, and I just skipped to where they went to the tavern so Brian can see about getting any information about humans from the bartender, but the bartender said he wrote some books about the possibility of humans from his travels, and that those books are at the palace where Calder is currently keeping Brian. So Brian is going to try to see if he can find a book that mentions about humans and whether they exist or not. He doesn't have clearance to the area where the book is, so he's going to try to see if he can find it without Calder or anybody noticing. So there may possibly be more humans in this world. But anyway, I was happy to see Fred again, and I was happy to see Skjoll again also. He was certainly happy to see Brian again. So, like I said, next time we'll play everything, but this time after we get caught. I'm not going to spoil everything, but the main part will be the fact that it's not quite as friendly or cordial as what we saw here in the first two videos I made about this new update, in which the MC decides to cooperate and surrenders. It's more friendly. But in the other option where you won, they are obviously not quite as friendly because they're mad that you ran. So that's the main part of what we're going to see next time after we're captured. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.